So now, what is web development? What exactly is web development? Let's talk about that for a minute. So if you look at web development, you think about it, and when I was first starting out, just learning more about web development and studying this on my own and studying about computer programming, it was really hard for me to find just a simple explanation of some things about web development. So I really wanted to put that out there for you to see that before you jump into learning more about web development. Kind of think about what you're getting into. And when you think about web development, it simply is the process of developing things and content for the web. Think about it like that, the process of developing content for the web. So whether that's websites or web applications, there's a lot that you can do with web development. So if you go and you are on a website and you're building the content for that website, the code to help put on the words and to put up the images or the videos or the content, you're helping to code and put that up, well, you're doing web development. And there's something called web design. If you want to do design, you can do the design part and kind of lay it out, or you can do both. You can design and develop the website. So when you think about actually developing it and putting the code and using the code to put content on it, you're doing web development. You're thinking about web development. And there's actually, websites you can do, there are applications you can do. It doesn't just have to be a website. When you go someplace, let's say you may go to someplace like an Amazon or Facebook or something like that, you're actually interacting with that application over the web. So you're doing more than just viewing content, you're doing something, you're putting something in, you're getting information back. So there's a lot of interactivity. And as you can imagine, anybody, just about any company now has web development, they have web applications, they have websites. And so you're using a lot of content and you're doing a lot with web development in your code in order to be able to make that take place to interact with your users nowadays. So when you think about it, think about web applications, things you do over the web that may be interactive, or just websites in general, and building the content for that, for web development. But not just applications. When you think about it, there's something you're going to hear about. You're going to hear about front-end versus back-end web development. So what is that? What does that even mean, front-end versus back-end web development? Well, front-end web development is typically, you can think about as what you see. When you think about front-end web development, you go to a website, when you see the content, if you're writing and developing the code for that website and putting the content on that website, you're developing it. And typically when you do that, when you're writing the code for it, you're doing it with 3 languages. You're doing it with HTML and CSS and some JavaScript usually in order to make that happen. And you can do a lot. You can build a lot of websites, a lot of applications. You can do a lot, almost anything you want to do really with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can do just about anything you want to do with that. But also, when you think about it, there's another side to web development. It's back end, and that's what you don't see. If you go to a website, and sometimes it may be an application or website. Let's say sometimes you have to put information in. You're putting in your email address, or you're logging in some way. Let's say you go to Facebook or Amazon, and you put in your content, your email and what have you, and it pulls up information about you. Once you put in your password and so forth, it pulls up your information. It has to do that by going to a database, so there's server-side communication, database communication that takes place in order to pull up your order, pull up your information, your profile. So that's behind the scenes. That's what you don't see. And obviously you're interacting with that through the web, but there's a back end side to that. So that's what you don't see. And that's the database, that's the communications that take place to make a web application or a website really work for the user. And that's done a lot on the back end. And if you do that, you're going to learn other languages. You'll learn many other languages. And it's very interesting, though, JavaScript can be used on the front end and the back end. So it's a very versatile language, and a lot of people are doing this nowadays. They're doing a lot with JavaScript, using it on the front end and the back end. But you can do a lot with back end things that you can't see and things that you can see. And when you think about it, you don't have to do just one or the other. You can do both. There's something called full stack web development. When it comes to full stack web development, essentially what you're doing is you're using a set of technologies. You're using a bunch of software programs or frameworks that you may use that go together to allow you to do both front end and back end applications for the web. So it'll allow you to build what you see, put all the content on there, but also process database things or serve up certain things to the user if you want to. So you don't have to do one or the other. You can choose to do one or the other, or you can do both. And you can pick a set of technologies to do that, or come up with your own way, figure out your own way to make sure that it works for your customers. So I just wanted to share with you, that's the difference between front end and back end, what you see and what you don't see, what happens behind the scenes. So before you get into this and you study more about web development, I wanted to give you a good idea what web development is and what you can expect from it as you start to learn more and more about these languages and these technologies.